Hello and welcome to the End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your lady in tech. Hello and welcome, Tyler, to the End User Talk podcast. I want to thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you for joining me today. Before we go any further, do you mind introducing yourself?
Not at all. So my name is Tyler Hook. I am a software engineer at Dell Technology. I graduated from Texas State with a bachelor's of science in computer science last August. So I've been working ever since.
What can one do with a computer science degree?
I think you can do literally anything. During my time, especially in college, I realized, especially maybe towards the end of my program, just how versatile my program is. I think that aside from nursing, computer science has to be the most useful, most marketable degree right now. And whenever you actually get into a professional environment, you can do IT management, project management, software engineering, which is what I've chosen to do, UI, UX design, if you're somebody who came from an artistic background and decided to pursue a more technical career. But yeah, I think that there's just so many avenues for it. Everybody needs somebody in IT, and you kind of get to decide this is how I want to utilize the knowledge that I've acquired and how I would like to move forward in my career, what I want to do with my life. So it's been really great to see just how many options that I have, especially where I'm at now at Dell. Since I'm just coming in, I'm definitely trying out a role for about a year. But if there's a point that I want to try something different, everything is just completely open. I'm just really excited to see what my degree really has in store for me.
That's wonderful to hear that a computer science degree or that particular field, there are options, if you will. You just stated that it is rewarding.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, I definitely have seen a difference between I remember when I was in college, I was really the only person in my friend group that was really exploring a more technical degree path. And so now that we have kind of graduated, my peers who I was really close with, how things have gone for them versus how they've gone for me. And everything's just kind of been a learning experience. I definitely feel the path that I've chosen has been a little bit more flexible professionally and just in my life in general compared to the path that they have chosen to go on.
Is this something that you were always looking into, or did this happen kind of later on in life?
I feel this kind of happens, well, not super late. So when I was in high school, especially, I think that was around the time when I started thinking about what is my plan? What kind of colleges do I want to go to? And what did I want to study? And most of high school, I was actually a journalism student. I was on the newspaper staff. I did stuff with Yearbook. I was interviewing, and it was work that I found really rewarding. And in that, I also had developed a design skill set. I was really good at doing the publication design, and I was almost a reference to my other peers. And I was also it was just something that it was really great. I got a lot of awards when I was in high school for doing graphic design and print design work and things like that. And I think that I was also kind of pushed. I think there was some kind of requirement that I had to fulfill, and it was maybe more of a technical science requirement. And at the school that I attended, they actually did have a really decent computer science program. But I only took one computer science course when I was in high school, and I performed really well in it. And I think that seeing how I could kind of pair my graphic design background with the science, it just pushed me to want to explore that. So when I got to college, I had already decided to declare my major as computer science just from taking that one course.
When you're in high school, some students already know what their career path is going to be.
Right.
Unfortunately, everyone doesn't know. You're kind of in this holding pattern. Outside of this particular course, did you have any other resources to rely on?
I think that the great thing about computer science is that there are so many resources online. I think that one that I really began to lean on, especially when I was still in high school, was probably Code Academy, just free resources that I knew were out there online. Because after taking the computer science course that I took in high school, because I was I had such a creative skill set, I got really into web design. And so I just wanted to be able to figure out how I could kind of pair both. So being able to kind of create a user experience with my design skills, while also understanding the background work that happens for a website, whether it be the coding aspect or plugging it up to a database or launching it, things like that. So I would say Code Academy, Khan Academy, but now that I am kind of continuing to learn. There are so many other like really great resources that I've stumbled upon. Like one of the ones that I use the most now is probably like Udemy. I love doing Udemy courses because I feel like incredibly structured. It's almost like being in a class again. You know, you get like a syllabus, you have lessons that you do, there are challenges, maybe even quizzes in between each lesson. It's just been like kind of great in terms of like learning new skills, especially maybe those that are more advanced topics, because now obviously I have a foundation in a lot of technical areas. So I just kind of want to do something that's like a little more challenging.
Do you think that you have a better foundation and understanding because you have formal college training?
Yeah, okay, so for me, I think it really just depends on the type of learner that you are. If you're somebody who you feel like you need a little bit more support to like kind of go and learn something that is uncharted territory for you, maybe it does help to get like that formal classroom setting because it kind of pushes you to have to interact with the material that you're learning. And I feel like starting out, it's definitely something that's good. And obviously there are so many benefits to having a degree, but like I remember there would be several times when we would have guest speakers when I was in college, and they would be from people who didn't have technical backgrounds. I remember one specifically, it was a guy that came from Microsoft, and he actually had an English degree, you know, and he had like pretty decent experience or technical experience, and he was kind of able to work himself up to where he was officially like a software engineer at Microsoft. I think it just really depends on like, you know, like what you gravitate towards. Like some people are just better at learning computer science concepts. I probably was not one of them. Like I remember getting to college and, you know, starting to take foundation classes for programming. And a lot of my peers who had incredibly good at math and had already kind of had like a science background just surpassed me in terms of how fast they were able to learn some material than I was. And I, you know, it just really depends on the type of learner that I feel like you are ultimately. I feel like after a while, since I do have the foundation, the Udemy classes have really worked for me. And I feel like in certain areas, anybody could definitely learn. Like I mentioned the app development class that I'm currently taking on Udemy, and it is targeted to people who don't have any coding experience but would like to learn how to build an app. Like there are more advanced topics for advanced programmers such as myself, but it is also very beginner friendly. So
What coding or programming language or languages are you proficient in?
I'm proficient in C++. That was actually like first language I learned in college. Java, JavaScript. I feel like those are the ones that I've really kind of reached mastery in. Obviously, like I feel like I have a lot of intermediate knowledge in like other concepts like C#, and I'm learning Swift right now, and it's kind of an easier language to learn. Yeah, I feel like after you learn one language, if you understand it like conceptually and fundamentally, you can apply all of that to any other language that you are looking to learn. So yeah.
What programming language do you try to learn first?
Yeah, I feel like in the past when I was in college, I believe I had a professor saying that some languages are a little bit, you know, like you have certain computer science languages that are almost like readable. You know, they're very English-based languages. And so I think they're called higher level languages. And then you have lower level languages that are like kind of closer to like machine code, all the binary code, zeros, ones, and all that stuff. I feel like maybe, you know, JavaScript or Java, the two that are the most friendly to learn.
Is there a difference between programming language and coding? Is there any fundamental difference between the two? Or are they the same?
Yeah, in my opinion, they are. Depending on the language, syntax and things like that are different. Coder and programmer, to me, I feel like I've always heard them being used interchangeably.
Do you think you'll take on any personal software projects or app development?
Absolutely. So like right now, especially since I got this new Mac, I'm really trying to get into some iOS app development. Right now, I'm kind of starting in more of like a beginner area. You know, I'm learning how to use Xcode because really in the past, I've never really had to use it. Yeah, and just like running simulations and trying to, you know, move forward with that. I've also like started kind of doing my own app designs and prototypes with another software called Adobe XD that's like really used for, or like, and also another software called Figma that's used for like prototyping and designing websites, phone applications, and things like that. So I'm kind of like doing like a little bit of UI with backend app development skills.
That sounds so exciting.
I'm really
All right.
excited.
Yes, it sounds amazing. I heard you say you got you a new Mac. When you're programming, is it important important to have the right type of computer, hardware, software?
For me, all of college, I used a Dell and I absolutely loved it. I had a Dell XPS. It was such a great portable laptop. Definitely was going to buy one again for a while, but then like I said, I wanted to explore like what it would be like to start building iOS applications, and that's really why I invested and got myself a MacBook Pro. My Dell was great for like all of college. But with that being said, I also feel like there were certain things like whenever you're kind of learning about different operating systems, I had some professors who were more inclined to use Linux or Mac OS versus a PC. That's also like the beauty of computer labs. If I didn't have the latter, then I could just go use another machine and get the work done. But I feel like you can really just go like either route. There are like, I know that before I even bought the Mac, I actually did research on the best computers for either app development, software engineers, things like that before I had made my choice. And like, it's kind of a mix of maybe Apple computers and Dell. I don't know. I guess
So
I've just had experience with both, and I think that they've both been pretty great.
I know now we have Chromebooks. I've heard that
Yeah.
Chromebooks are okay to use for certain programming, but it may not be something that would suffice your entire college year. Clearly, a Chromebook is more cost efficient than maybe a PC or even a Mac. Starting out, maybe that's all you could afford. You might need to transition to something that's a little bit more robust.
Like you mentioned with the Chromebook, I would just make sure that whatever computer that you choose to invest in, it has the type of processor and the type of storage that you're going to need. If it's $200, if it's $1,200, it's kind of an investment in your learning at that point. So I would just make sure that it is completely compatible with the work that you have to do, essentially.
There's a lot of factors to consider in that regard. Do your research, everyone. In your opinion, is there a preferred method in learning programming languages?
There actually is another tool that I have stumbled across recently. It's called Edibit. It's just like another free website where you can pick a coding language. They have tons. I was using it when I was learning C# a lot, and it almost is like Duolingo for code. So you can almost learn. I think now that like I understand fundamentals of learning code, I know what variables are, functions are, and sometimes I don't have to necessarily go through those definitions conceptually the way that a beginner should probably. There's just a faster way to kind of like start, problem solving in that. But if I was a beginner, to me, I feel like I'm just the type of learner where I would want something incredibly structured. If it's not going to be in a classroom, then it's going to be like a really structured online course I have a schedule for, and I'm learning day by day by day. That's also what I found like really great about like even starting out with something like Code Academy, because it is free for the most part, and it does kind of go into those concepts pretty thoroughly. And then if you need more clarification, like I would try to like find resources on like whatever I was struggling to understand.
Is there a particular time frame that someone should put into practicing, studying when they're learning programming?
Yeah, so if you're somebody like me who like, or like us who has full-time job and you have like other responsibilities, one thing that I've learned to do is set realistic expectations, especially with some of these courses that I've signed up for recently. So what my realistic expectation for myself is that I can spend at least an hour most days, maybe 6 days out of the week. And I kind of have like a detailed, like these are the sections that I'm going to hit on Monday, and then these are the sections I'm going to hit on Tuesday and Wednesday and so forth. And then I always leave like one day of the week free if I'm fall behind, just because, that's bound to happen. Like you have life happens. So that's kind of my day to catch up so that I can finish everything and I'm able to start where I need to be the following week. So I just committing about an hour a day will make all of the difference. And it also is good for somebody like me who can get very overwhelmed quickly. If this is completely foreign to you, you don't want to scare yourself by trying to do it all at once.
Understood.
So
You don't
just
want
like
to be
very
overwhelmed.
gradual learning. Exactly. You don't
That
want to put
makes
yourself in a
sense.
position where you're overwhelmed, because it's hard to return to that. It's almost like going to the gym for the first time after like 4 or 5 months and then trying to like work out super hard, and then you're all sore and you can't go back the next day. Some people need more time to process certain topics. So I think that it's just very important to be realistic whenever you're setting up these goals. How much are you going to be able to do per day? And like kind of set up more feasible deadlines for yourself. Like don't be super lenient to where you're getting off pace, but definitely try to understand that sometimes things get in the way. Sometimes things take longer than they're expected. Like I remember the other day, I may have set an hour aside for the app development course, and it took me forever to troubleshoot why I couldn't view the app simulation on my phone. It took so long to figure out so many forms, so many Googles, and like Stack Overflow and all of the things. And it takes a while sometimes to just get, even if you set up an hour of like learning learning something, actually understanding what you learned and actually like setting it up and doing the challenges or the projects that and also encompass that lesson, it can take a lot more time than you think.
So there should be a sense of flexibility and focus on your study time.
Right.
That sounds like school. So
Essentially,
we have
that's
to
kind of
say
how I've
that
been treating it. Yeah.
your transition from college to getting into the actual workforce was a pretty smooth transition for you. What is the hiring process? What can someone expect with that?
Okay, so I feel like for me, like you mentioned, it was kind of like a seamless experience, which really shocked me because I feel like I was having like a really hard time in college. And then the material that I had and just scheduling and work, it was starting to get like really stressful. And I finally just decided to like quit the job that I was trying to keep. And that was kind of when things really started to move in my favor, especially when it came to finding a career after college. I just had a little bit more time to kind of figure that out. For me, it was really just about like showing up for different events and programming that Dell was putting on when I was in college. And that led me to an interview, which led to another interview. And most of my things with Dell were more behavioral. And then the technical aspects of my interviews were maybe about projects that I had completed in the past and things like that. But recently, I actually had gone back and did some recruiting at Texas State, my alma mater, for Dell. And it's just like a really interesting experience about what we're hiring for, who we think would be like a good culture fit, and like them moving up and then conducting the interviews the next day for those people that we selected. But I will say that for people who have already graduated or have the technical expertise, I would just make sure that you're marketing yourself well, like whether that be on LinkedIn or, like make sure that you're really showcasing your technical skills, because I know that especially right now with everybody being in quarantine, like there aren't going to be very many career fairs. There aren't going to be a lot of in-person events that a lot of companies are hiring for right now. I would just make sure that your skill set is on there. You may have maybe like a collection of projects that you can upload to maybe GitHub, showcase like this type of work that I've done in the past. These are the experience, even if they're just projects that you've made up in your free time, because I used to do that a lot before I had gotten on at Dell. I would link my GitHub to my LinkedIn profile so that I was able to showcase those projects on my LinkedIn for potential recruiters. Courses that you had completed in the past, get people that you worked with in the past, or even just peers that you may have had in class to maybe vouch for your skill set. I know that people can kind of, the skills that you have listed, you can have people, basically say that, yes, this person has showed these type of skill sets whenever I've worked with them in the past. Have somebody write references. If you're still having trouble, maybe try looking for an internship. Like a lot of companies, at least that's what I've experienced from being in college, but they, especially once they've seen how you work, they're more inclined to give you that full-time opportunity, or at least ask you to return. Or I've had experiences where maybe people who are very technical don't always have like the best soft skills. So I would also maybe sit down and like look at what kind of soft skills are necessary for really performing well in-person interviews, or even just making sure that your resume is good and it's all up to date and it's organized well and it's not just a block of paragraph text, because I saw that a lot when I was down at Texas State, and I'm like, oh, I don't know why you have like this whole paragraph about you. Like most people only look at resumes for like 10 seconds and then it's moved on. But obviously make sure that it's like still very professional. It encompasses all of the information that you need as an applicant, or it's really tailored towards the job that you're seeking. Because I remember like when I would skim resumes as they were coming into me while I was working at this career fair, like first thing I would normally look at projects and if they're involved in any kind of technical organizations. And so like you want someone to be able to tell you about a project that they've completed, or you want somebody to be able to tell you about if they have a certain skill listed, like they're proficient in C++, what have you done in C++? I think that the real reason is that we want to make sure that you can work as a team, because a lot of software engineers, normally you're working in a team to complete a goal essentially. This is like where you're coming in at, so that they know like where you need to be placed. And also because I think that for like larger tech companies, what I had experienced was that they would have technical rounds to almost eliminate certain applicants that they felt could not complete certain problem sets. There are things called hackering that a lot of companies will kind of put out before even a phone call interview is given, just because of the amount of applicants they have for applying to into certain positions. And so if you can't complete the hacker rank, then you're automatically thrown out of the competition for that job position.
Can these also be unfair gauges sometimes?
I think that sometimes they can be, just because there are like quality applicants that I may not be able to perform well under that kind of pressure. Me, I always had a difficult time doing hackering. I did them several times, so many different companies, especially when I was trying to get an internship. I think most of the time they're timed. So maybe you, as soon as you log in, you have an hour to complete 2 or 3 problems. I also think that there's something that they're trying to find out. It's not necessarily that you can even do this in like the most efficient way. They just want to see how you can solve a problem. And I think that problem solving is just like so fundamental in engineering careers that, I mean, it's something that's bound to happen anyway. It's either you do a technical round like this and then there's an interview, or you just do like a regular interview and there's a technical round possibly with another person. Like I remember one time I hated this one interview that I did. It was an over the phone technical interview. So they're just asking me all of these questions. It almost felt like, how many technical questions could you get in just in the time that we have? It was like, tell me about yourself, or it wasn't even tell me about yourself. It was tell me what you're interested in. And then it was, do you know the Fibonacci sequence? Can you tell me what you would do for this problem? You know, different searching and sorting algorithms and things like that. So it can get very overwhelming sometimes. But I also feel like it matters about like what that company kind of values, because I've had very technical interviewing experiences and then I have had very like not so technical interviewing experiences. I guess it just really depends on how that company goes about picking people that fit their culture.
Do you feel that there are any challenges for Black women considering a career in this field or just in the tech industry in general?
I think that in the tech industry in general, just because, well, there aren't very many of us, just start like, you know, I remember like my dad used to send me like all kinds of technical articles that he would want me to read almost as motivation, especially when I was in college, because, you know, I would be struggling with some specific course or, you know, just a way to remind myself, this is why you're trying to get this degree. Like as tough as it is, this is the rewards that are kind of waiting for you on the other side. I remember reading this one article about how there was this one company that might be 5% female and then maybe 1% Black. It's very different. And I think that the presence of Black women in tech, I feel like it's changing a lot. Like I feel like now it's starting to become more popular, like gradually, but it's really interesting. Like I kind of felt like sometimes when I was in college, some of the classes almost feel like you're in a locker room, one big like nerdy fraternity, and you just kind of see what happens and like you're listening to their conversations. And, you know, some of them were like they just had like very little regard for a lot of the females that would be in class with them. I think that you just have to, I don't know, I guess, you know, the thing that got me through it was that I wanted to kind of be an example for who was coming. And so that I was able to kind of speak to them about my experiences and how I may have overcome that. And sometimes it was just letting things brush off my shoulder, you know, and it also felt really rewarding whenever you could also prove people wrong. They don't get to just put you in a box just because you're the only person there. I feel like I've definitely done that moving into my career. I'm the only Black woman on my team, but I'm also the only woman on my team in America. I work on like an international team where half the team is based in India and then the other half is here. I'm the youngest person on my team. Everybody else is like at least 10 years older than me.
That's a testament that you can use in order to continue to motivate yourself. And you've got so many things that society counts against you. You're Black and you're a woman. To overcome all of that, you know what? Kudos to you. Pat on your back.
Thank you.
You deserve it because college is hard. You've worked to earn it. Nobody's giving you anything. You have to be focused. You have to be determined. You have to be disciplined. And you also have to try to figure out life because you just graduated from high school. It is a major learning curve for a lot of people, but yet you can still be an inspiration to others. Thank you for your hard work, sharing your experience. And I know some of this may not make sense to a lot of people, but it's the overall path.
Just a few months ago, I went to like a NSBE meeting. Like there's like a general NSBE club for professionals in Austin. And I got to like sit in on this panel. A lot of other Black professionals who are at other IT companies were just talking about how sometimes the education that is kind of received doesn't necessarily translate to the skill set that they're looking for, either postgrads or maybe even people who are going from high school to college. I mean, really for high school to college, I think that you kind of get away with coming in as a beginner because I remember like when I was coming coming into college, I was still technically a beginner. Like I had dabbled in some Java because of the course I had taken in high school, but then I was kind of going in C++ and it was something completely different than what I had experienced as a high school student. Really, it's all about like the material that they kind of been learning, I guess, at that point in college. You're learning all these technical skills, but maybe you don't actually need some of them to like succeed in a corporate IT environment. And so sometimes I feel like there's kind of like a disconnect. And I think that that really just depends on like your school's curriculum. But one thing that really helps is being able to like start getting an idea of what kind of professional roles fit what you are trying to accomplish and looking at the skill sets that are necessary. Because normally like they'll have preferred skills that they'd like you to come in with, doing some research on, okay, well, I know this from a class, but maybe I can also learn something else in my free time that'll help increase my chances of performing well if I ever wanted to interview for something like this. I think that there's a lot of that, and also like the hackering. You know, there are so many people who aren't necessarily prepared for that. There is like one pivotal class that I think everybody takes as a computer science student, and it's called like data structures. It's basically like the meat of your program. It's about, you know, algorithms and different things that kind of are a little bit more interview based, or at least those tend to be topics that I've been asked in interviews, and I know others have also been asked in interviews. And just depending on your program, it's either going to be something that's heavily invested in the entire program. Like I know I used to talk to a lot of people who went to UT and like how their curriculum was kind of different from the curriculum that I was learning at Texas State, just because my curriculum was more conceptual and it was more along the lines of broader topics and themes that you see all across computer science, versus theirs was very much problem solving. Like they knew all the algorithms, they knew all of these things specifically. And for me, you know, it was more about like a general idea. And, you know, there are like pros and cons both, because, you know, just because you have something memorized doesn't actually mean that you can work out a problem. And just because you have some like conceptual knowledge doesn't mean that you can like specifically go and like complete a problem, like solve an algorithm or do a very specific task. I don't know. I think that that's really what it is. But I think that every program kind of needs to hint on that a little bit more. Like there were like few courses that actually kind of paired you for like those technical interviews in my experience. But that's also why, like, to kind of view a holistic applicant, it's not just about your coursework. It's not always just about your GPA. You know, it's about like, what are your organizational involvement? There's tons of computer science organizations, whether it be like something like NSBE, or maybe your school specifically has like a computer science club, or maybe you started a computer science club, you know, like, or you're involved in other organizations and you have brought in technical knowledge to those in some way. That's why I think that it really matters that you get involved, because like a lot of those programs could also be, a lot of those communities and organizations are also ways to figure out how you need to present yourself whenever it's time to look for professional opportunities. You know, you learn so much out of class, especially whenever you're in college. That's why like I really implore people to get involved while they can, because that is something that I think makes up such a huge part of your application.
Do you consider yourself in a career now?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm in a career. I think the one thing that has been really like great about where I've started my career is the fact that it's just so driven in terms of education. Dell has been one of those places that just because you've graduated, you do not stop learning. In my program alone, like I actually have like, I think 10 hours course material that I complete per quarter. You know, it's kind of motivated me to complete other projects in my free time. The involvement, there are so many like communities and so many employee resource groups that I've gotten to become part of, mentor circles. So I just feel like really well adjusted because of how many resources they've offered me since I've graduated college.
Do you feel accomplished?
Yes, I feel very accomplished. I really just thought that there are going to be like more opportunities in the future that I've already kind of started to lay the groundwork for, is an accomplishment in itself, because I just have so many paths and so many avenues and so many resources that I can really call on for like that next thing. But yes, I do feel and I feel accomplished in that, I guess. There's just so much more that's over the horizon, and I'm just like scratching the surface right now.
Are you a part of any organizations?
NSBE is really great. I'm trying to currently become a paid professional member of NSBE so that I can attend things like their conferences. I definitely, once this corona situation is over, I definitely will probably make more of an effort to go to those general body meetings that they hold in my area, but there's also like a NSBE chapter within Dell. Another organization that I really want to get involved in is called Black Girls Code. And the only reason I haven't yet is because they just don't have an Austin chapter yet. There's one in Houston. I don't think there's one in Dallas. I think that Houston is the only Texas city that has one. I would love to be like a mentor or a teacher in the programs that they hold for girls, maybe junior high to high school, and just being kind of more hands-on in like the experience of getting them to have the experiences of, having like a technical skill or just an idea that, hey, like I can do this.
Well, I think you would be a great mentor. Everything that you've explained, although this is more of a technical conversation, it's not so far over our head. Now, mind you, I'm sure there are going to be some things that we will have to Google after the conversation. I believe you've made it where it's clear and we can take the information that you've provided and apply it somewhere in our lives. Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years, personally and professionally?
Okay, professionally in 5 years, I'm a part of like a really great program. It's an IT development program. And so since I'm in the first year, I think like in 2 years, I'll technically be a part of the third year. And it's an optional round that you have kind of be invited to complete where they allow you to basically receive a technical master's that Dell will pay for. And so I really hope that I get selected to be a part of something like that. I would love to get another degree, especially if it's free. I just really want to see my skills grow. I'm in a kind of an area where I'm just learning so much. And I just hope that I get to be applying all of this in about 5 years. And I hope that I also kind of expand my personal portfolio of project. I really want to see some growth in either the app development, web development. Like I just want to make sure that I kind of have something on the side that I'm doing for myself that's allowing me to continue growing. I think that that's going to be me in 5 years. I don't really have like a specific career, a specific title. I definitely see myself continuing in the development and I still want to be coding maybe in 5 years. Some people like to go the management route. That work can be very dull. So I kind of like where I am right now and I just really want to see like my skills kind of flourish maybe as a senior software engineer.
Are you on social media or do you have a website? How would someone follow you?
You can definitely add me on LinkedIn. First name is Tyler, Tyler. Last name Hook, Hooks. I think if you have like any professional, if you're looking for anything like seeking professional advice or like wanting to know any more about like my role and things like that, I think that would be like the best way to reach me. And I also believe my email address is listed as well, which is tylerhook and then the number 8@gmail.com.
All right. Well, Tyler, you have been a wealth of information. These are the tools and the types of resources that we need. Sometimes that's just encouragement. And this is your time and your opportunity. If you have anybody you want to send shout outs to, I don't know if you millennials say that today.
Okay. Well, I guess shout out to my parents, shout out to my brother, all of my family who has kind of helped me to reach this point in my journey, all of my friends, my line sisters. I love all of you. Thank you so much for riding with me through thick and thin. I really love you. Thank you.
You are very welcome. I'm going to say thank you again for this opportunity. It has been very uplifting and motivating. You are welcome back to the End User Talk podcast at any point in time.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. That concludes another End User Talk podcast. Thank you for listening.